Module 3, Supporting Staff Through Change. Workplace culture is how people think, believe, and behave. Every organization, especially legacy organizations, has work cultures that need to be understood to best support staff. This module will explore how to understand your organizational culture and history and repair harm among your staff. Building a relationship with your employees will increase the trust needed for challenging conversations around new directions for the organization. You need to know your staff and their needs to create and implement equitable policies. Lesson 1, Determining Cultural Alignment. Cultural alignment determines the connection between one's dimensions of diversity, personal values, and the organization's demonstrated values through inclusive and equitable practices, policies, and procedures. It also includes how unwritten and hidden rules may work in opposition to one's personal values and the organization's mission, vision, and values. Understanding if employees are personally aligned with the organization's culture requires a deep dive into understanding employees' perspectives. This includes what they experience at work and having tough conversations about how employees are operationalizing and interpreting the organization's values, whether correctly or incorrectly. The values of you and your employees will never overlap 100%. One organization can't serve everybody in all aspects of who they are all the time. This is especially true when diversity is apparent and openly honored. However, when an organization is clear about its values and culture, it will attract talent and partnerships that align with it. It can also dissuade current and potential employees who are not aligned with the organization's cultural values. The latter may be most apparent when an organization shifts cultures from less inclusive and transparent to a more open and honest one. According to the organizational consulting firm Korn Ferry, when an individual's personal and professional identity and cultural values are highly aligned with the organization's values, it provides an opportunity to leverage that connection and accelerate one's professional development. It can also increase retention rates and employee engagement. Cultural misalignment often indicates a lack of inclusive practices within an organization. We talked about the ways inclusion and equity can manifest within the organization. Now let's discuss the ways cultural misalignment can occur within the organization. Here are some examples of cultural misalignment. Obligatory participation in social activities and events that negate or does not include important aspects of your identity or are simply not of interest to you. Sharing personal information about yourself that feels invasive and required. Having to compromise one's identity as a woman or a person of color to be successful. Working during times that interfere with personal time to leave the right impression. Expecting to network and connect with others, even those you don't like. Supporting political action groups that require personal contributions when candidates or parties may not be aligned with your political views. Not having flexibility when working remotely or having to complete necessary tasks outside the standard work hours regardless of family impact. Not taking paid time off because there is a perception of a lack of commitment from those who do. Feeling you must continually prove yourself, your value, and your skill level. Giving your ideas to your manager to make them look good. Being told you are too quiet or too aggressive at company meetings. Preoccupation with the feedback you give as negative or criticism, rather than opportunities for development for the organization. Being political and being authentic feels like an oxymoron. Remember Pearl in the video from the previous module? That's an example of how cultural misalignment can show up and cause people to feel they cannot align their personal values with organizational values. However, when we make space for people's diversity and values, it can shift how the organization operates internally and presents itself to the community. I encourage you to invest in employee engagement surveys, focus groups, and training your mid-level staff to facilitate ongoing feedback loops with their direct reports to discover how they are experiencing the organization. This information is critical to understanding how to adjust your equitable practices and leadership strategies for the organization. Activity. Organizational culture is demonstrated in visible and invisible actions and guidelines. What's visible is often management systems, assigned work tasks, how people react to peers, supervisors, or direct reports, metrics and tools for measurements, and reward systems. What is often invisible are our assumptions about people based on the choices they make. This can include not attending the after-work happy hour or having to leave early to take a child to the doctor, which is secretly frowned upon even though it's allowable. If you have an issue, you can't go over the manager's head. You must take on additional work to be considered for promotion. You have to have a relationship with senior leadership to be considered for projects. You experience different behavioral norms from department to department, resulting in inefficient patterns. These unspoken expectations continue because it is how the organization has always done it. These unwritten rules are often found out through error or someone sharing them with us informally. So you can imagine how challenging this can make the workplace. For this activity, I want you to think through the unwritten rules in your organization. Answer the following questions. Reflecting on your personality, socialization, and culture, how aligned are you with your organization? Which of your values make working in your organization a good fit for you? Which aspects of the organization's culture require more energy from you to maintain your alignment? Focusing on areas in which you are highly aligned, how can you leverage them in your current job? What could you do to minimize the tension created by this misalignment? You can consider taking this activity a step further and incorporating it into a survey or a series of focus groups across the organization to gather more data to help with your diversity, equity, and inclusion leadership strategy and goals. Complete this activity, and I'll see you in the next lesson.